Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today it's all about the tale of persistence and self-belief against all odds and proving the doubters wrong and showing that you were right. And the case study that we're going to use, if you might call it that, I'm not sure if case study and Ted Nugent have ever been used in the same sentence before, but we've just used it now, and now we're going to use it again because it was today in 1976 that Ted Nugent's debut solo album hit number one. It would sell well over 2 million copies, and it was mostly due to the fact that he fought like hell to include his signature song on this album against the desires of the producers and of the record label. And this is, of course, Stranglehold, his guitar solo laden magnum opus that the record labels thought, well, it doesn't have a chorus, it's too long, there's just a lot of, guitar noodling about, you need to make it shorter and snappier. And he said, look, the reason that you signed me as a solo artist is you saw how successful my gigs were and how this song just lit up the crowd at every show. So take it or leave it. This song goes on the album or I walk. And they relented, and lo and behold, Stranglehold has become a kind of rock, heavy rock FM radio anthem. And people are still playing it, and people still love it. And it's arguably Ted Nugent's finest moment, among others. And this really goes to show that there is no format for what works or doesn't work in music or in life. Frank Zappa told an interesting story in the 80s about how the music industry started to get too clever for its own good. It started second guessing the artist and started second guessing the audience, two things which you really ought never to do. And he talked about how when he got into the music industry in the early 60s, most of the executives were old guys from the old generation. They were chomping on cigars with slick back hair. They didn't know what all this modern rock music is, but they said, it has long hair, it sounds weird, throw it out there, see what it does. In other words, they were willing to take risks. They didn't claim to know it all. They simply said, let's see what happens. Throw it up against the wall, see what sticks. And then by the 80s, the yuppies came in. And he said that they ruined the music industry because they tried to micromanage everything. And they had this God complex where they thought, we know what the audience wants to hear. But that's simply not true because an audience only knows what it wants to hear once it hears it. And the only way that they can hear it is if they're given as much variety as possible so that they can choose from as wide a basket of not food, but of music as possible. And I think there's an important lesson in all of these stories. And Ted Nugent is someone that clearly, when he was young, and even though now that he's older, he's someone with really strong opinions, and he's not afraid to say them. And I think that's a great thing. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or disagree with it, or the sometimes in unintentionally humorous way that he expresses it. It's all about standing up for something, whether you're a right winger like Ted Nugent, or a left winger like Roger Waters, or someone concerned about his own people like Serge Tankian from System of the Down, who's very much a human rights activist for his Armenian community. And there's many other examples of artists that have taken a stand over the years. When Jim Morrison didn't want General Motors to use Break On Through in a Buick commercial, that was taking a stand. When Neil Young wrote This Note's for You to criticize various beer companies sponsoring musical acts, that was a statement. And there's so many instances. Frank Zappa and John Denver and Dee Snider of Twisted Sister going before a Senate committee, standing up for free speech. All of these things are examples of musicians who actually stood for something and weren't afraid to say it. And I think that it was also symptomatic of a culture that, even though a lot of these people got a lot of stick for what they were saying, I think that we've become less tolerant of different opinions. We just want to shut the other opinions down, call people stupid, rather than just listen to the opinion and debate it with what you, the opponent, believe is a better opinion. And so I suppose the lesson is, whether you're in the boardroom of a record company or anywhere else, stick to what you believe in if you believe it's right, and never second guess the audience. That's the message anyway. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.